When Allah removes someone from your life, the first reaction many people have is to interpret it as a personal failure. They begin to replay conversations, examine their mistakes, and wonder what they could have done differently to make that person stay. But this mindset comes from looking at life through a purely human lens, through a lens of limited perception. When you broaden the frame and recognize that Allah has a plan operating beyond your immediate understanding, the entire experience starts to look very different. Instead of feeling like a rejection, it becomes a form of divine protection, a filter that removes what would hinder your growth, even if you don't yet realize it. We often assume that every person who enters our life is meant to stay, but this is not how Allah has designed the world. Not every presence is permanent, and not every departure is a loss. Sometimes Allah places people in your life only for a season, only for a specific lesson, or even as a test. And when their role is complete, He removes them so that you can move forward without unnecessary burdens. The problem begins when you chase after what Allah has already taken away. It's like trying to hold onto a leaf being carried away by the wind. You exhaust yourself, you lose balance, and you miss the beauty of the path ahead. The truth is, Allah sees what you cannot. He knows the invisible dangers, the unfolding consequences, the character flaws that would harm you down the road. You only see the moment, Allah sees the future. So when He removes someone, especially someone your heart is deeply attached to, there is always wisdom in that separation. Sometimes the person you wanted the most is the exact person who would have destroyed your peace, your confidence, your spiritual grounding, or even your future stability. But because you couldn't see it, Allah intervened out of mercy, not anger. There is a psychological dimension to this as well. When you tie your sense of worth to another human being, you hand them the power to define your emotional state. Your mood becomes dependent on their presence or absence. You begin walking on emotional eggshells, fearing their disapproval, craving their validation. When Allah removes such people, it is often a call to reclaim your autonomy. It is a reminder that your worth does not depend on who stays with you, but on who you are in the sight of your Creator. And sometimes the only way to draw your attention back to Him is to detach your heart from those who have become distractions. This is why separation, though painful, is often transformational. It forces you to confront yourself without external noise. It pushes you to reflect on what truly matters, what is truly stable, what is truly yours. And when you sit with yourself long enough, you begin to realize that some relationships were draining you in ways you didn't recognize. Some people were reducing your energy, lowering your standards, weakening your values, or steering you away from your purpose. But because the human heart becomes blind when it's attached, Allah removes them before the damage becomes permanent. There is also a deeper spiritual philosophy here. Allah tests your heart to see what it gravitates toward. If your heart clings too tightly to creation, He may pull creation away so you can return to Him. And this is not cruelty. It is an invitation to real freedom. Because the only relationship that never disappoints is your relationship with Allah. Every human connection is temporary, fragile, and unpredictable. But Allah is constant. He does not change, does not leave, does not break, does not forget. When people exit your life, it is often an opportunity to lean more deeply into the one who will never abandon you. Think for a moment about the times in your life when you chased someone who walked away. How did it make you feel? Drained, unworthy, confused. That internal turmoil is a sign that this path was not meant for you. Allah does not tie your peace to someone who is not written for you. So when He removes someone and your heart resists that removal, what you are actually experiencing is the conflict between divine wisdom and human desire. Your desire wants to hold on, but Allah's wisdom wants to set you free. And freedom is exactly what this separation offers. Freedom from emotional dependency, freedom from people who don't value you, freedom from false expectations, freedom from relationships built on instability, freedom from a path that would have led you away from your purpose. But you can only taste this freedom when you stop chasing what Allah has pushed away. You can only heal when you stop reopening the doors He has closed. There is a beautiful calm that comes when you finally surrender to this reality. You begin to trust that what is meant for you will never require you to humiliate yourself, compromise your dignity, or diminish your worth. You begin to understand that the people who are truly written for you will be guided toward you by Allah Himself, and they will stay not because you chased them, but because Allah kept them in your life. That is a level of peace no amount of emotional effort can manufacture, and once you internalize this, you stop interpreting every departure as a disaster. You see it as divine filtration. Allah is removing what is not aligned with your next chapter. Allah is clearing your heart for something purer. Allah is creating space for relationships that actually uplift you. What you call loss, Allah calls preparation. So the next time someone leaves your life, pause and ask yourself, what if this is Allah's mercy? What if this is His protection? What if this is His way of telling me you deserve better than what you're chasing? And what if holding on would have harmed you far more than letting go ever could? Remember this, when Allah removes someone, He is not taking something away from you. He is taking something away from your future. Trust Him enough to let it go. When you try to hold on to someone whom Allah has already removed from your life, you don't just struggle emotionally, you begin to experience a deeper spiritual disruption. There is a kind of internal fragmentation that occurs when you force an attachment that Allah has already dissolved. Your heart, which was created to find stability in Allah alone, becomes stretched between what is divine and what is temporary, and that tension is what creates so much exhaustion. Many people don't realize that the weight they feel isn't from the loss of the person, it's from resisting the wisdom behind that loss. You are fighting a battle that was never meant to be fought, and that conflict drains your emotional, psychological, and spiritual energy. Human beings are not designed to handle forced connections. Every relationship has a natural emotional rhythm. When it aligns with Allah's decree, it feels effortless. There is a kind of harmony, a natural flow, even if challenges exist. But when Allah removes someone and you keep chasing them, that rhythm fractures. Suddenly you find yourself trying to convince, trying to explain, trying to beg for what once came naturally. That shift itself is a sign that the attachment is no longer aligned with divine wisdom. When a relationship begins requiring the constant sacrifice of your dignity, your peace, your clarity, and your connection to Allah, it's no longer a relationship. It has become a spiritual test. People who are meant for you do not require you to abandon yourself to keep them. They do not require you to constantly justify your worth. They do not pull you away from your values or compromise your principles. But someone whom Allah has removed will inevitably become a source of internal conflict. Your heart senses that you are chasing something that no longer belongs to you, and that creates a type of turmoil that no amount of emotional effort can fix. It feels like pouring water into a cup with a hole at the bottom. You give and give and give, and nothing stays. That emptiness you feel is not a sign that you should try harder. It's a sign that Allah has already closed that path. There is a psychology behind this as well. When you chase someone who has distanced themselves, you slowly erode your own sense of self-worth. You begin to internalize the idea that you must earn what should have been given freely. You tell yourself that if you can just prove your value, if you can just show how loyal or patient or forgiving you are, they will come back. But this mindset is damaging because it ties your value to someone's acceptance instead of rooting it in Allah's sight. The moment your worth becomes dependent on another human being, you lose emotional independence. You become a passenger in your own life. Spiritual scholars have often emphasized that the heart cannot function properly when it is overly attached to creation. It becomes needy, anxious, desperate for reassurance. It begins to crave what the other person gives instead of relying on Allah for contentment. This shift is subtle but dangerous because the more you chase the person, the further you drift from your own spiritual center. The further you drift, the harder it becomes to recognize what is good for you and what is merely familiar. And familiarity is one of the strongest traps of the human heart. It keeps you attached to people who were part of your past, even if they have no place in your future. This is why forced attachments create spiritual blockages. When your heart is occupied with what has left, it cannot receive what Allah wants to bring into your life. You cannot step into a new chapter if both hands are clinging to a door that has already closed. And Allah, in His mercy, sometimes removes someone precisely because you would never let go on your own. He pulls away what is harming you in order to create space for what will heal you. But if you continue chasing what He has removed, you block that healing from entering your life. Think about the emotional warning signs people experience when they chase the wrong person. Their sleep becomes disturbed. Their thoughts become chaotic. Their heart feels heavy. Their worship loses focus. Their productivity collapses. They become distracted, anxious, unable to enjoy the present moment because their mind is constantly occupied by someone who isn't even showing up for them. This is not love, this is attachment turning into obsession. And obsession is one of the clearest signs that the heart has become misaligned. Allah does not want your heart to break endlessly. He wants your heart to be anchored, stable, dignified, elevated. And He cannot elevate a heart that is chasing creation instead of turning toward the Creator. This is why one of the greatest spiritual tests is watching someone leave your life while still trusting that Allah's plan is better than your desire. It requires a level of surrender, a level of humility, a level of reliance that only comes when you understand the nature of the heart itself. The heart was not made to be tied to people. It was made to be tied to Allah, and from Him flow all healthy connections. When you stop chasing and start surrendering, something remarkable happens inside you. You begin to regain energy you didn't even realize you had lost. Your mind becomes clearer, your worship feels deeper, your sense of self becomes stronger. You begin to see the situation for what it truly was. You recognize the red flags you once ignored, you notice the imbalance you tolerated, you see how much of yourself you were giving away without receiving emotional nourishment in return. That clarity is a sign that Allah is healing you from the inside, realigning your heart to what truly benefits you. And eventually you look back and realize that losing that person was not the tragedy you once thought it was. It was the turning point, it was the awakening. It was the moment Allah removed what was blocking your growth so He could guide you towards something far more fulfilling. You begin to understand that people who belong in your life will never be kept away from you, and those who do not belong in your life cannot be held in place, not even by your tears, your effort, or your loyalty. So when someone leaves, don't chase them, don't force what is not written, don't cling to what Allah has already released. Because every time you do, you distance yourself from the peace Allah is trying to give you. Instead, anchor your heart to Him and trust that what is written for you will always arrive without you compromising your dignity. One of the most difficult truths for the human heart to accept is that Allah's timing is perfect even when it disrupts our own plans. We often cling to people, moments, and expectations because we assume we know what is best for us, but the reality is that Allah's wisdom is not bound by our limited vision. His timing is not defined by our emotions, and His decisions are not a reflection of what we want in a single moment. They are a reflection of what is best for our entire life. When Allah removes someone from your path, He is not closing a door without purpose. He is preparing you for a chapter that requires a different version of you, a wiser version, a stronger version, a more spiritually grounded version. But you can only step into that new chapter if you trust the divine timing that guides it. The heart is often impatient. It wants immediate answers, immediate clarity, immediate emotional resolution. But Allah does not operate on emotional urgency. He operates on divine precision. Everything is timed with purpose: who enters your life, who stays, who leaves, and who returns. And when you begin to internalize this truth, you stop viewing separation as an interruption and start viewing it as preparation. You understand that Allah removes people not at random, but at exactly the moment their presence would begin to harm your growth. And He brings new people into your life not accidentally, but at the moment their presence will elevate you in a way you couldn't have achieved alone. There is a kind of serenity that comes from believing that Allah's choices for you are better than the choices you would make for yourself. Most people don't realize how many disasters they prayed for, how many heartaches they begged for, how many hidden harms they were attached to. Sometimes the person you desperately wanted to stay would have brought you pain you were completely unprepared to handle. Sometimes the person you cried for was the very person who would have drained your spiritual energy, weakened your emotional stability, or pulled you away from the purpose Allah designed for you. And because you couldn't see that, Allah removed them before their presence could cause damage that would take years to undo. Divine timing is not just about what happens in your life, it's also about who you are becoming. If Allah allowed every relationship to continue simply because you wanted it to, you would never evolve. You would never learn resilience, detachment, humility, self-reflection, or true reliance on Him. Some relationships end not because the other person was bad, but because the version of you that needed them no longer exists. Allah closes a door because He has already built a new one, but He knows you won't step through it if you're still clinging to what's behind you. There is a psychological beauty in this reality. When you understand divine timing, you stop forcing outcomes. You stop chasing clarity from people who are not willing to give it. You stop waiting for closure that may never come. You stop tying your emotional stability to the decisions of another human being. Instead, you begin to trust that whatever is meant for you will come to you effortlessly, not without effort, but without begging, without humiliation, without losing yourself. This trust frees you from emotional dependency and allows you to redirect that energy toward growth, toward reflection, toward rebuilding. Every disappointment you faced came with a purpose, even if you didn't recognize it at the time. Think back to moments when you felt broken, confused, or abandoned by someone's departure. Then think about where you are now. How many times did Allah replace that loss with something better? How many times did you look back and say, if that person had stayed, I wouldn't be who I am today? Sometimes the answer only becomes clear years later. Sometimes you never fully understand. But even without complete understanding, you can still trust the one who sees what you cannot. One of the most profound aspects of divine timing is the idea of divine replacement. Allah never takes something from you without preparing something else, something that aligns with your growth, your peace, your dignity, and your future. Replacement does not always mean another person. Sometimes the replacement is inner strength, sometimes it's clarity. Sometimes it's peace you didn't know you needed. Sometimes it's a path that opens only after a person exits. And sometimes, yes, it is a new person, someone whose presence aligns with your emotional maturity, your values, your purpose, and your spiritual direction. When Allah removes someone, the replacement may not come immediately. There may be a period of silence, an empty space that feels uncomfortable. This is intentional. Allah gives you space to heal, to reflect, to realign your heart before He writes someone new into your story. If replacements came instantly, you would never learn the value of detachment or the importance of trusting the process. You would simply transfer your attachment from one person to another without understanding the lesson. And Allah wants your attachment to shift from creation to creator before He allows creation to enter your life again. Trusting divine timing also means accepting that what is meant for you will never require you to chase it. It will come naturally, it will feel balanced, and it will be sustained by Allah, not by your desperation. You will know the difference instantly. A relationship that is written for you will not cause constant anxiety. It will not require you to sacrifice your dignity or your values. It will not drain your emotional energy. Instead, it will bring steadiness, clarity, and mutual respect. It will feel like something Allah Himself has placed in your path, because that is exactly what it will be. So, when someone leaves, remind yourself, if they were meant to stay, nothing in the world could have removed them. And if they were meant to leave, nothing you do will make them stay. Your responsibility is not to force destiny, but to trust it. Not to chase, but to surrender. Not to cling, but to evolve. You can either spend your life questioning Allah's timing, or you can align your heart with His wisdom. One brings exhaustion, the other brings peace. When someone walks out of your life, the first instinct is often to reach outward, to hold on to them, to pull them back, to recreate what once felt familiar. But part of spiritual maturity is learning to redirect that instinct inward and upward. Instead of chasing a heart that has detached, you shift your focus toward the one who never detaches. You move from depending on people to depending on Allah. And this shift is not just spiritual. It is emotional, psychological, and deeply transformative. Because the more your heart anchors itself in Allah, the less power temporary relationships have over you. The heart is naturally restless. It seeks meaning, connection, belonging, reassurance. But when it looks for these things in people, it will always remain unstable. Human beings change, they grow, they drift, they disappoint, they make mistakes, they leave, but Allah does not. When you begin to recognize that the only relationship that provides true emotional security is the one you have with your Creator, you gain a sense of inner stability that no one can take from you. The people in your life become blessings, not anchors. They become companions, not lifelines. And when Allah removes someone, you no longer collapse because your heart is not built upon them, it is built upon Him. This redirection of the heart is not easy. It requires honesty. Many people do not realize how much they have attached their identity to another person until that person leaves. Their confidence, their sense of worth, their daily routines, their emotional well-being, everything becomes intertwined with that relationship. And when it ends, the emptiness feels unbearable, but that emptiness is not punishment, it is revelation. Allah is showing you where you placed a dependency that was never meant to exist. He is pulling your heart back from creation to Creator, back from temporary ties to eternal purpose. The truth is, a heart that is overly attached to people becomes vulnerable to emotional instability. It swings between hope and fear, longing and disappointment. Small actions from others can shift your entire mood. A delayed message can ruin your day. A rejection can shatter your self-esteem. When people hold that much power over your inner state, your emotional world becomes fragile, unpredictable, and easily shaken. But when Allah becomes your reference point, the center of your emotional gravity, you become grounded. You still feel, you still love, you still care, but you don't break. You don't build your life around someone who can walk away. You build it around the one who is always with you. Redirecting your heart does not mean becoming cold. It does not mean avoiding relationships or refusing to care for others. It simply means you learn how to love with boundaries. You learn how to give without losing yourself. You learn how to attach without worshipping. You learn how to appreciate people without placing them in a position reserved only for Allah. Healthy relationships grow from a healthy heart. And a heart becomes healthy when its deepest attachment belongs to the divine. And something profound happens when this shift occurs. You begin to see people differently. Instead of expecting someone to complete you, you begin to appreciate those who walk with you. Instead of begging someone to fill your void, you allow Allah to fill it. Instead of fearing loss, you accept that everything in life is temporary except your relationship with Him. This mindset frees you from emotional slavery. It allows you to approach relationships with dignity, self-respect, patience, and clarity. A heart anchored in Allah is also more resilient. It does not fall apart when someone leaves. It grieves, yes, because we are human. It hurts because attachments are real, but it does not collapse. It does not lose its sense of direction. It does not become spiritually paralyzed, because its strength does not come from people. It comes from the one who created people. And when you live with that kind of resilience, you stop viewing departures as endings. You view them as redirections. You view them as part of the journey Allah has written for you, a journey that continues even when certain faces do not. This redirection of the heart also opens the door to self-reflection. When someone leaves, the first question most people ask is, why did they go? But a healthier question is, what is Allah teaching me through this? Suddenly, the pain becomes a source of insight. The loss becomes a lesson, the silence becomes a space for growth. You begin to understand what patterns you need to break, what expectations you need to refine, what emotional wounds need healing. You begin to recognize your own worth, not through someone else's validation, but through the fact that Allah created you with purpose and strength. And when your heart is aligned with Allah, the right people find their way to you naturally. You do not chase them. You do not force them. You do not beg for their presence. Allah guides them to you because your heart is ready, balanced, and receptive. You become the kind of person who attracts relationships built upon sincerity, respect, and mutual elevation. People feel peace around you because you are no longer seeking to extract something from them. You are simply sharing the stability you have found in your connection with Allah. This is why redirecting your heart from temporary relationships to eternal purpose is not just spiritual wisdom, it is emotional liberation. It frees you from cycles of dependency, it frees you from chasing what has left, it frees you from attaching your happiness to someone else's decisions. It frees you from the fear of loss because you realize that what is truly yours will never leave, and what leaves was never meant to be yours. Allah wants your heart to be peaceful, but peace does not come from holding on to people, it comes from holding on to Him. And the moment you understand this, you stop chasing the ones who left and start investing in the one who stays. You stop mourning closed doors and start trusting the path ahead. You stop searching for completion in others and start cultivating it within yourself through your relationship with your Creator. Because in the end, every person in your life is temporary, every connection is temporary, every attachment is temporary. But Allah is eternal. And when your heart is anchored in the eternal, nothing temporary can destabilize you.